Egyptian sources say Israeli negotiators are trying to get the first stage of the Gaza ceasefire deal extended by 6 weeks. It would delay a complete withdrawal of Israel's troops from the territory. Hamas is opposed to any extension. With me now is Behnam Ben Taleblu, who is an analyst at the Foundation for Defence of Democracies. Thank you for joining us on BBC News. Just to follow on that point about the extension of this first stage, Hamas has now said that it formally opposes extending the first phase of the ceasefire in Gaza. Just give us your reaction to that and what this could mean for the discussions happening in Cairo at the moment.
Sure, pleasure to be with you in studio. Essentially, Israeli politicians, negotiators have been calling this a desire for a 1.5. So before going into phase 2, which would require a full Israeli withdrawal and a full return of all the hostages, including those who were killed by Hamas, the hostage bodies, the Israelis were looking to get basically a pause coterminous with the holy month of Ramadan in the Islamic calendar, which starts actually, I believe, this weekend and would go into mid to late March. If you recall, last time actually, because I think Ramadan started earlier in March, the Israelis and Hamas actually had a pause coterminous with that month as well, and then fighting resumed afterwards. So some Hamas folks are saying that this is an Israeli stall to have to avoid going out of Gaza altogether, particularly the debate over the Philadelphia corridor. But in fact, I believe that this is really coterminous with Israeli negotiating strategy and, in fact, a desire to get more hostages out.
And so what is Hamas looking for in these negotiations? Does it want to move on to a proper second phase? Well, what would that involve?
I would say Hamas is looking to rush through past phase 2 because they get to remain in power, which would basically nullify the Israeli military and political aim of the war, which began after the October 7th terrorist attack. So Hamas is quite keen to have of Israel from the Gaza Strip and also to remain in power in whatever shape or form they can.
And of course, we're focusing a lot on what's happening in Washington and the United States paying particular attention on that war in Ukraine, Russia's invasion there. The United States is a key broker in terms of what's happening in the Middle East. So how does this impact those negotiations and those efforts to end the war in Gaza?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because there is great connectivity. The problems of the Middle East don't remain in the Middle East. The problems of Europe don't remain confined to Europe. And in fact, the drivers of the conflict in both are actually allies. Russia is an ally of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Islamic Republic of Iran is the patron of Hamas. So there's great connectivity here. And diplomatic time, capital, and attention is limited. And if you look at what the Trump administration wants from the Middle East, it's going to need quiet on one front, but it can't actually think that the borders of one continent will be hermetically sealed. When you look at the Middle East, they want, peace in the Levant, basically a ceasefire that guarantees Israel's sovereignty and stability. Then they want a deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran or a way to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran, and they would like Saudi-Israeli normalization. And it's very difficult to do that with wars.
Very difficult things to try and achieve. Behnam Ben Taleblu, thank you for joining us in the studio.
Thank you.